Have you ever reached a point in your life where you suddenly realized, quietly, almost without warning, that you were giving too much of yourself away? Maybe it started small. A favor here, a loan there, a family issue you got dragged into because, well, they said no one else could handle it. And before you knew it, your days weren't truly yours anymore. You found yourself putting out fires that weren't yours to begin with, smiling through discomfort and biting your tongue more often than you wanted to. At this stage in life, you've earned something that can't be bought or bargained for: peace. But peace has a price, and it starts with saying no to certain requests. That's what we're going to talk about today. 5 things people may ask of you that you have every right to refuse. Not because you've become cold or distant, but because your time, your energy, and your emotional well-being matter more than ever. Let's begin with the first one. It often comes disguised as love, as duty, even as kindness. It's the subtle pressure to pick up burdens that never belong to you. You know the type. A neighbor asks for just a little help, maybe watching their grandkids just this once. But then it's every weekend. A friend expects you to organize a gathering because you're so good at it, even though you're tired. Or a grown child leans too heavily on your time and patience, asking you to fix problems that are clearly their own. It begins innocently. You say yes because you're generous, because you want to be helpful. But the danger is, kindness without boundaries becomes a trap. Before long, you're the one holding everything together. Not because it's your job, but because no one else stepped up. And when you finally try to pull back, guilt rears its head. You feel like the bad one for choosing your own needs. But here's the truth. You're not here to be everyone's glue. You're not a backup plan, a safety net, or a one-person repair crew for other people's chaos. When you carry weight that was never yours to begin with, it slowly chips away at your sense of self. Your health, your energy, your peace, they all pay the price. You deserve to say, "I care about you, but I can't carry this for you." And you don't owe anyone an apology for that. Saying no doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you love yourself too. Now let's talk about something that can be even more sensitive: money. Lending money, especially when it's not a true emergency, can turn even the warmest relationships into quiet battlegrounds. Maybe it's a relative who made poor financial decisions and expects you to fix it. Or a friend who assumes that because you're retired, you must have extra to spare. And suddenly, you're in a position where saying no makes you feel like the villain. You might hear things like, "But your family," or "I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." But when you look closer, you realize it's not about an emergency. It's about entitlement. In your younger years, you may have given more freely. But now your financial stability is not just about money, it's about safety. It's the cushion you spent decades building. It's your health care. It's your ability to rest without worry. And once it's gone, it's hard to get back. People might tell you it's just a loan, but too often, loans go unpaid. And what's worse, the emotional toll doesn't come with a receipt. Sometimes, saying yes to someone else's request means saying no to your own peace of mind. And here's the part many don't realize. When you lend money out of guilt or pressure, you're not helping. You're enabling. You're stepping into a story that was never yours to write. And if you do say no and they turn on you, if they make you the villain for protecting your own future, that says more about them than it ever will about you. You've done enough. You've worked hard. You've sacrificed. Now is the time to enjoy what you've built, not give it away to people who aren't willing to take responsibility for their own lives. Being generous is beautiful, but generosity should never come at the cost of your peace. It's okay to ask yourself, do they really need help? Or do they just need someone to save them from the consequences of their choices? And even if they do need help, are you the only one who can give it? Or have they just gotten used to the idea that you always will? As we sit here and talk, I want to remind you of something simple but powerful. You are not a resource to be drained. You are a human being. Your comfort, your security, and your rest matter. Saying no, kindly, firmly, without guilt, is a way of reclaiming your life, of protecting the space you've spent a lifetime creating. And now that we've talked about carrying emotional burdens and protecting your finances, it's time we looked at something that might hit even closer to home. Something that's often hidden behind good intentions, behind family bonds, behind the idea that you're the one who always makes peace. Let's talk about being pulled into other people's conflicts, especially family ones. It starts innocently, with a phone call or a quiet request. Mom, can you talk to your sister for me? Or, Dad, please say something to your brother. He listens to you. Maybe it's your adult children feuding over something trivial that's grown into a cold war, and suddenly you're expected to mediate. You're expected to fix things, to make peace. But here's what no one tells you. Stepping into the middle of someone else's argument doesn't always bring harmony. Often, it only draws the fire in your direction. You become the emotional punching bag, the scapegoat, the one blamed when things don't resolve the way others wanted. And while they move on, perhaps even reconciling on their own, you're left emotionally drained, wondering why you got involved in the first place. There's a special kind of exhaustion that comes from trying to keep peace between people who don't truly want peace. You end up absorbing their anger, their bitterness, their unresolved pain. And in the process, you lose sight of your own serenity. You feel anxious before the holidays, uneasy during family dinners, walking on eggshells because you've been tasked with keeping things civil. But that's not your job anymore. You are not a referee. You are not the family therapist. You've lived your life, fought your own battles, and built enough wisdom to know when something is beyond your control. And let's be honest, most family disputes, the deep ones, aren't about who said what. They're about pride, old wounds, power struggles. You can't heal those for anyone else. You can only protect yourself from being cut by their sharp edges. Think of how many moments of calm you've lost because someone dragged you into a storm that wasn't yours. The phone calls that left you unsettled. The guilt you carried because you couldn't make everyone happy. But here's the truth. No one can. And you were never meant to. Let people fight their own battles. Let them grow, learn, and if necessary, stumble. That's their journey. Yours is to keep your heart light, your days peaceful, and your spirit free. You've done your part. Now it's okay to step back, let go, and focus on your own joy. Because the truth is, you've likely spent decades being the strong one, the sensible one, the one who always shows up. And while that may have helped your loved ones once, now it's time to help yourself. That doesn't make you selfish, it makes you wise. You're not abandoning anyone. You're simply choosing peace over pressure. And once you start doing that, once you begin to say, I'm not getting involved, and really mean it, you'll be amazed at how light your days feel, how much easier you breathe. It's like finally putting down a heavy bag you forgot you were carrying. This isn't about turning your back on love. It's about redefining love, choosing to support with compassion, not with sacrifice. Being present but not a pawn. Offering wisdom, not servitude. You see, the people who truly care about you won't ask you to step into drama that harms your heart. They'll protect your peace, not ask you to surrender it. They'll understand when you say, I love you both, but I'm staying out of this. And if they don't, that's their issue to wrestle with, not yours. And here's something even more powerful. When you choose peace, you give others permission to do the same. You model what it means to have boundaries. You show them that love doesn't mean control, and that silence doesn't mean indifference. It means wisdom. So whether it's emotional burdens, financial stress, or family disputes, remember this. Your life is not a revolving door for other people's problems. you are allowed to close that door gently, kindly, and firmly. Because the next time someone tries to tug at your heartstrings to pull you into their chaos, you'll know better. You'll feel that little voice inside saying, "Not this time." And you'll listen. You'll choose your peace. You'll choose you. And that, my friend, is the most powerful choice you can make. Now take a breath. You've already done more than enough. And the best part? You're just getting started on a life that finally feels like your own. Now imagine this. After all the years you've spent growing into who you are, every lesson learned the hard way, every value earned through living, you start hearing subtle suggestions that you should change. Maybe it's in the way someone comments on how you dress, or the music you like, or how you speak your mind without dancing around your truth. At first, it might seem harmless. That outfit is a bit much for your age. You still listen to that old stuff? You shouldn't say things like that. People will take it the wrong way. But if you listen closely, what they're really saying is, stop being you. Make yourself smaller, quieter, more acceptable. Blend in. Be easier. And for what? So they can feel more comfortable? You didn't spend 60, 70, or even 80 years of your life becoming you just to be edited now. You've lived. You've loved. You've failed and gotten back up. You've made peace with your quirks, your preferences, your past, and someone who hasn't walked a mile in your shoes doesn't get to rewrite your story. The most subtle form of control doesn't always come with demands, it comes with suggestions, with judgments disguised as advice. And it can make you question yourself. Am I too much? Should I change? But here's the thing. You are not too much. You are a masterpiece in progress, shaped by time and truth. You are not a draft to be revised or a blank page for someone else to fill in. The pressure to conform never really goes away. Society, family, even well-meaning friends may try to nudge you back into a version of yourself that fits their narrative. But fitting in was never the goal. Being whole was. And the only way to stay whole is to stop chipping away at yourself just to keep others comfortable. Because that's how people disappear. Not all at once, but piece by piece. A silenced opinion here. A discarded passion there. Until one day, you look in the mirror and don't recognize who's looking back. But not you. Not anymore. You've come too far for that. If someone tells you to act your age, you smile and say, "I am." If they suggest you tone it down, you laugh and say, "I've earned the right to turn it up." Because being rooted in your truth isn't defiance, it's dignity. And it's the one thing no one has the right to take from you. You see, the people who truly love you won't ask you to dim your light. They'll sit in your glow and feel inspired. They'll say, "I love that you're still dancing. I admire that you speak up. You remind me it's never too late to be yourself." And in those moments, you'll remember why saying no to the pressure to change is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Now let's talk about one of the most invisible, yet most harmful expectations of all. The one people rarely name out loud. Being asked to shrink your joy to protect someone else's emotions. You've probably heard it in soft pleas or sharp tones. "If you really loved me, you wouldn't do that. Can you not say things like that around me? I just don't feel comfortable when you talk about those plans." And what they're really saying is, "Your happiness makes me uneasy." Stop. It can catch you off guard, especially when it comes from someone you care about. You might think, maybe I am being selfish. Maybe I should hold back. But here's the honest truth. When someone expects you to center their comfort over your own joy, that's not love. That's emotional control dressed up as concern. Relationships, real ones, aren't meant to be one-sided stages where you perform while the other person judges. They should be spaces where both people get to be real, to be full, to feel deeply and live honestly. But so often, especially later in life, we're taught to keep the peace. Don't rock the boat. Don't make others uncomfortable. And so we swallow our desires. We tiptoe around topics. We silence our excitement, all to make others feel better about their own unhealed places. But your joy is not a problem. Your dreams, your choices, your freedom, they are not something to apologize for. You are not responsible for managing someone else's reactions to your life. The years ahead of you should not be spent performing emotional gymnastics to keep everyone else content. They should be spent in alignment with your purpose, your truth, your peace. So if you want to travel, travel. If you want to take up painting again, do it. If you feel like dating, falling in love, or just being on your own with a good book and a glass of wine, go for it. Whatever brings you joy, chase it like time is on your side, because in many ways, it is. These are the years where you finally get to live life on your terms. And yes, some people may find your freedom uncomfortable. Let them. That discomfort is not yours to carry. Because when you stop prioritizing other people's emotions over your own, you create room to breathe, to feel, to live. And that's not just important, it's necessary. It's how you reclaim the fullness of your life. And if anyone tells you otherwise, remember this: you've earned every ounce of your peace, every quiet morning, every loud laugh, every moment that makes your heart beat a little faster. No one gave that to you. You built it. You protected it. And now you get to enjoy it fully and unapologetically. So keep living. Keep choosing yourself. Because your joy isn't just worth protecting, it's worth celebrating. And isn't that what this season of life should really be about? Not survival, not obligation, but celebration. You've made it through storms others never saw. You've kept going when you weren't sure how you would. You've watched people come and go, learned what matters most, and discovered that peace isn't found in the noise, it's found in the quiet moments where you finally get to exhale. But too often, even after all of that, someone comes along and asks you to give just a little more, to take on a responsibility that isn't yours, to compromise your values, to hand over time, money, energy, joy, things you've spent decades building and protecting as if they were nothing. And here's the truth that might be hard to say out loud, but needs to be said anyway. You don't owe anyone your peace. Not your grown children, not old friends, not people who only show up when they need something. Love doesn't mean sacrificing yourself until there's nothing left. It means being present without being depleted. It means giving from a full heart, not an empty tank. You've earned the right to say no, without guilt, without explanation, without the need to justify your boundaries to people who never respected them in the first place. Because these 5 requests, carrying other people's burdens, giving money without true need, mediating family drama, changing who you are, and prioritizing someone else's emotions over your own, they all have one thing in common. They ask you to abandon yourself. And the longer you say yes to those things, the further you drift from the life you're meant to be living now. A life filled with quiet mornings and laughter that doesn't need to be filtered. With conversations that uplift, not drain. With choices that reflect your true desires, not what someone else decided was appropriate for you. And maybe you're realizing that you've said yes to too many of these requests in the past. That's okay. So many of us have. Because we were taught that love looks like sacrifice. That good people always help. That it's selfish to put yourself first. But now it's time to rewrite that story. To understand that love without boundaries is not love, it's a transaction. That being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. And that protecting your time, your energy, your truth is not a betrayal of others. It's a deep act of loyalty to yourself. So ask yourself gently, Who in my life has made these requests of me? Who keeps knocking on my door with empty hands and heavy expectations? Who walks away lighter while I walk away drained? And then ask the more important question: why have I kept opening that door? Because you see, awareness is the first step to freedom. Once you notice the patterns, you can begin to change them. And change doesn't require a big speech or dramatic exit. It starts with small things. With a pause before you say yes. With a quiet, firm, "I can't do that." With choosing rest over rescue. Stillness over sacrifice. You don't have to explain your boundaries to people who benefit from you not having any. You don't have to carry guilt for choosing a life that finally feels like it belongs to you. And you don't need permission to protect your peace. Because the people who truly care about you, the ones who see your worth, not just your usefulness, they won't make these demands. They won't treat your kindness like a credit card. They'll walk beside you, not on your back. They'll celebrate your strength, not chip away at it. So let this be the moment where things shift. Where you stop giving parts of yourself away to people who don't return the gift. Where you stop being the emergency contact for everyone else's chaos. Where you stop silencing your joy to keep someone else from feeling uncomfortable. Let this be the chapter where you choose you. Because peace, real peace, doesn't come from fixing other people. It comes from honoring yourself. And you, yes, you, are worthy of that kind of peace. If this message stirred something in you, I'd love to hear about it. What have you let go of lately? What boundaries are you learning to hold firm? Share your story in the comments. Not just for me, but for someone else who might need to hear that they're not alone. And if this spoke to your heart, go ahead and hit the like button. It helps more than you know. Subscribe if you haven't already, because around here, we don't chase perfection. We embrace peace, purpose, and truth. You've carried others long enough. Now it's time to carry yourself. With grace, with strength, with joy. Here's to living your best life, on your terms, at any age.